The truth is, everyone is pitching the DMs. And if you look at this right here, this is the kind of message that I usually receive. Hey Ewan, I just found out you're using Go High Level on Connect Them. That's super exciting. Can I help you or your clients with something like this? And then there's just like a word vomit of everything that they can do. That is not what you should be sending in the LinkedIn DMs. If you actually want someone to reply, you need to send something which is going to build trust, build a bit of rapport, and something that's lighthearted and fun. And what people just can't seem to understand is the bar of excellence and being the best is so low on LinkedIn. If you imagine most people are receiving this, you can stand out pretty easily. You just need to have a bit of personalization, a bit of relevance, and add a bit of value. That's all you need to actually succeed on LinkedIn and get in front of the right people. And in today's video, I'm gonna walk you through an entire full comprehensive sell by chat workshop that I ran for a community of 25 founders who were doing over 20K a month. And this are the exact tactics that I taught them of how to use LinkedIn, how to get replies in the DMs, and how to actually book meetings and then go on to close the clients. That is what we're focusing on today. And as the title suggests, book more meetings and close more deals on LinkedIn. And this is taken from the exact frameworks that I have used to close over 600K in revenue and consistently book 5 qualified meetings a day through LinkedIn. What we are going to go through today is the complete DM system that I use, the open, the qualifying, the proposing the call, and the following up. We're then going to go through the frameworks that I use, so BANT, LVQ, and ACA. I'll explain what they mean later, and ready-made templates that you can literally copy and paste into your DMs. And if you want to just be able to copy and paste them, I've literally put a qualified call booster kit below with all the DM templates that I'm going to run through in this video, so you can go into the DMs and immediately implement them. So just a bit of context. I have closed 18K in 72 hours through sell by chat, no sales call, just in LinkedIn, sending messages back and forth. As I also mentioned, I've closed over 600K in revenue via sell by chat, and I've booked over 250 qualified meetings, which was actually in a 4-month period before I progressed to being a closer. What is sell by chat? Sell by chat is a high-ticket outbound approach that uses text-based messaging to build trust with prospects through value-based conversation. Note the key bit there, value-based conversation. It's not this. This does not give me value. I mean, I don't know what they're thinking when they send this to me, because the other thing is, how do I know this is for me? I don't. I have no idea if any of that is actually relevant. They haven't talked to me. They haven't established if I have a need, if I actually want to purchase what they're saying. They have no idea. They've just pitch slapped and hoped for the best. And I'll explain why in a minute, why you don't want to do that. This is what I mentioned earlier. There are 4 sections to sell by chat. There's the open, there's then qualifying, there's proposing the call, and then there's following them up. You want to make sure you do each process exactly right so that you can actually progress them through the conversation closer to the booked meeting. This is what I was talking about earlier, where sell by chat fits in the funnel. The reason you do not want to send one of these is because this only adheres to a very tiny percentage of where people are in the funnel. If you look here, this is a split of 30%, 30%, 30%, 7%, and 3% of where your buyers actually are in the funnel. And the reality is, 97% of the people that you will have a conversation with are not ready to buy. They're not in that window of opportunity where you can present an offer and say, hey, this is how I can help you. Would you actually be interested? They're not at that stage. What you have to do is you have to push them further through the stages so they come into this window of opportunity where they're ready to be sold to. So to give you some context, 30% of your market is in the problem unaware stage. They know that they're not interested. They don't know they have a problem. They don't know a solution exists. They know nothing. They don't even know you. And that's the key bit. An example of this is what you can actually do is share industry insights, relevant case studies, more top of funnel content, as we call it, or tofu, you may have heard. Just content which kind of illustrates that there may be a problem that they're experiencing, but they just haven't actually identified that they have that problem. That's what this part of the funnel is all about. The next bit is another 30% of the market who are in the problem aware but solution unaware. So this is the stage where they don't think they're interested. So they know that they have a problem. They've identified it. They're going, hey, I'm experiencing this pain. This is what's happening, but they don't know your solution exists. And so there is no way that they could ever buy from you. And the cool thing about sell by chat is it doesn't matter which stage your prospect is in. you can still push them through to the ready to buy 3% at the end entirely through sell by chat. Even if someone is problem unaware, you can still use sell by chat to prove to them that they actually have a problem that is worth solving. The next 30% of the market and the solution aware, but not ready. They're not really thinking about it. They know that there's solutions out there, but they're not really sure if it's time to act. And this is a key bit. This is where you'll find most people, because when people present themselves and they come forwards, whether that's through a funnel, whether that's when you initiate a conversation, you'll actually find that they kind of know they have a problem and they know there's a solution out there, but they're not ready to purchase yet. Or they haven't found a product which aligns with their values enough to justify the purchase. You've got to prove to them that your product is justifiable to make the purchase. So this is where you've just got to overcome some of the objections that you may encounter because they're not sure your product is the best. That's where the next 30% are. 7% of the market are in the ready, but evaluating options. You are in competition with lots of other people who also sell the same solution, the same product. So you have to prove that your product is the best. And this is where 7% of people are going to be. So you have to push them through the funnel, through these different stages until they're finally in this evaluating option stage. And this is where you want to use things like case studies, testimonials, all this proof of concept that you have that you can actually help them solve their problem. Then there's the 3%. This is ideal. This is where they know they have a problem, they know there's a solution, and that solution is yours, and they know that yours is the best. So they're ready to basically get the credit card out, get the cash out, whatever it is. You go, hey, take my money. I want the outcome that you're giving to me. That's what I want. So this is where we've got to get everyone to. And you can use sell by chat at every single stage here. So how to open the conversation with a prospect. The reason they open is so important is it dictates the tone of the rest of the conversation. You've got to make sure that it's actually useful and it's actually something that someone would want to reply to. And as it suggests here, first impressions matter. The initial message dictates whether you are perceived as a trusted advisor, someone that can be trusted, or another salesperson. Like this example at the beginning, he's just a salesman. He's trying to sell me something. I know he's trying to sell me something. And there's a few things here which are indicating it. A, he's told me his services. B, I just found you using Go High Level. That's super exciting. It sounds salesy. It's too enthusiastic. I don't know this guy. I have no idea. And can I help you or your clients? Another addressable pattern. So what I mean by that is it's a pattern associated with sales, which suggests he's trying to sell me something. And worst of all, and this is the thing that I do hate, is please let me know your thoughts, exclamation mark. Too enthusiastic. It's not a question. He's not trying to see if I actually need the product. It's just word vomit. Hey, this is what I do. Are you interested? It's not really what you want to do. So first impressions matter. The next one is relevance and value is key. Notice here, that is missing. There is no relevance. There's no value that I'm getting. It is purely, oh, here's my services. You want to see if you're interested? Not really. I have no idea. So a strong opening always makes the recipient feel special and is deeply personalized to their specific context. If you can actually show that you put in that extra effort, you actually saw if they're posting, what they're posting about, maybe if it's on LinkedIn, or you actually sent them a message about where they live, something fun. And what I mean by that is, if I sent someone a message and they were in London, for example, you could be like, hey, I went to London last week. I actually went and visited Big Ben. It was huge, way bigger than I thought in real life, but looking at the photos. Have you been there to visit there too? That's off the top of my head. But it's just to give you an example that you can use geographical relatability to start a conversation. You can use mutual connection to start a conversation. You can reference one of their posts. There are all these ways where you can make it relevant and you can give value so they actually want to reply. You want to make it personalized to their specific context. The next thing is your reputation is attached. Every single message that you send on LinkedIn is attached to your profile. And if you send a bad message, then they're going to look at your profile and go, okay, well, I'm going to avoid this guy. I don't want to talk to him. He just pitched me. That's the idea. It's your reputation, so don't ruin it. Every message carries your face and name. You have to make sure that each interaction is how you want your brand to be perceived. You got to make sure that you're articulating your expertise, your authenticity, the fact that you know what you are talking about, and that continuing the conversation is worth it. And finally, we've already touched on this a little bit, pattern recognition. This is the point where someone receives that message and the first thing they're thinking, and this is purely because people have been pitched left, right, and center on LinkedIn, they're going to be looking at the message going, okay, well, is this person trying to sell me something? If they even get a whiff or a scent that you're trying to sell them something, they will not reply, because ultimately no one wants to be sold to. Even though people want help and they need your solution, they don't want to be sold to. So you've got to remove all the patterns or specific characteristics of selling to prove that you are not trying to sell them, you're actually trying to help. That's the idea. Like it says here, they decide within seconds if your message is another pitch or genuine help. Remove all common sales language. So things like gotcha, things like curious if. It's all association with sales. If you can remove it, then their guards will be down and they won't suspect that they're being sold to. That's the idea. Cool. So a bit of interactive, and again, you can put this in the comments if you want to have a bit of fun. But here are two pitch messages, or first messages, apologies. Which one is the best? We have, hi name, I help people like you increase their booked meetings by 50% through my proven outbound system. I think I could help you. Would you be interested in a quick call to discuss how I can help your company? You're probably seeing where this is going. The second open is, I just saw your post about starting to book meetings when LinkedIn is filled with the most generic posting and messages. Honestly, it reminded me of when I first started. I didn't know what advice to follow and so many people were preaching different things. I practically tried everything, but nothing worked, lol. How come you haven't given up quite yet? I know I almost did. See how that's a lot more personalized? That's what we're aiming for. Cool. Intent of opening a conversation. So these are the 5 ways that you can initiate a conversation and actually get someone to a booked meeting. So number 1 is a targeted sales navigator list, or referencing a mutual connection. So what I'll do is I'll put a link above somewhere to my previous video where I talked about how to use Sales Navigator and how to basically take someone that you know, look at all their connections and use that as leverage, because then you can initiate the conversation based on the mutual connection. Oh, hey, I just saw you connect with this person. I've been working with them for the last 6 months and I just helped them do X, Y, Z. How do you know them? And you're initiating conversation with them through someone that they may trust. That's the idea. So this could be a template such as, hey, first name, one of my clients, reference their name, mentioned they've seen your content, thought you might be someone worth connecting with directly. How did you get to know each other originally? See how that doesn't sound like selling? That's the idea. And people look at these like templates and when I show them to them and they go, well, this has nothing to do with what I sell. Exactly. It's not supposed to have anything to do with what you sell. It's supposed to get their guards down so you can actually have a genuine conversation and then eventually steer it towards what you actually want to sell. The next one is a recent post. So you could reference their post and say, hey, I've just seen your XY post, whatever it's about, on X topic. It reminded me of when and then link it to a personal story. One of the things that I've learned, if you've got to buy into human psychology, if you show a bit of vulnerability, people will show you vulnerability back. So whenever I reference someone's post, I like to try and link it to a personal story about myself. That's the key. What inspired you to write it in the first place? Start the conversation, initiate it, make it fun. You don't have to ask such a salesy question in the first bit. Genuinely see why they wrote the post. That's a nice way of initiating the conversation. I literally used this template and then had a whole conversation with them. So I just saw your post today. I had to get away from home and the UK, lol, and go to Istanbul to recharge. I find going abroad is my way of sustaining myself. Admittedly, I ended up working whilst I was there. It's hard to switch off. I just saw your Guinness World Record as well. How did you go about doing that? So you see how that doesn't sound like I'm selling? But now I'm actually in a conversation and I might be doing some work with them. All it started from was an opening that doesn't sound like I'm selling. So profile views. This is where someone has actually showed an intent signal that they may be interested. If they're looking at your profile, then they were obviously looking at it for a reason. And that may be because they're interested in your solution. So you could send something like, I appreciate you checking out my profile. Remind them of the intent signal that they've done. Been spending quite a bit of time optimizing it recently. Hopefully it's up to standard, lol. So many posts saying different things on how to optimize it. How did you come up with XYZ part of your profile? Notice how all of these templates do not sound like they are selling. That's the idea. The next one is what I was referencing earlier, which is weather and geographical relatability. So an example could be, I was in London last week. It's so busy. I looked out the window at about 3 a.m. and it was still packed with people in the street outside the hotel. It was crazy. I really want to go back though, as I like the atmosphere. Maybe not so much the weather though. Oh, do you live in London or are you only there for work? So that's an example of, if there's someone in London, I would send them this outreach. And the cool thing is, When you first start a business or at any stage of business, when you try and sell to someone who's in a local area or they have close proximity to you geographically, and so they're close to you near the area that you live or where you work, that builds up trust. Because like, oh, well, they're just around the corner from me. That's cool. They must be trustworthy because I like my town, for example, or I like my city. That's the idea. So that's how you can lean into geographical relatability, so you're relating to where they live, so that you can actually initiate the conversation. And finally, the one in purple, the one which has all stood out, is content engagement, or what's called a lead magnet, which I have covered before, but essentially a little pocket of value that you give away to show that you're authentic and you know what you're talking about. You can also use this. This has the highest response rate, hence why it's in purple. So this is where someone might like your post, they might comment, things like that. This is the highest one, highest engagement score, I guess, if that's how you want to look at it, or the warmest lead, because then you can start a conversation off the back of it. That's the key. So you could say something like, hey name, I appreciate commenting for my XYZ training, if it was a lead magnet. Honestly, it took a ton of time to make Lol, but wanted to make sure it was as accurate as possible of what I know works. Here it is, and then send them that little pocket of value from the post. What are you most looking forward to implementing first? This is a key way to start a conversation, but you can very quickly change that template if all they did was comment on a post. Hey, I appreciate commenting on a post. What stood out for you? What was your favorite part of it? It took me such a long time to write it and I wasn't sure about putting it out, lol, because I don't think anyone may ever comment, or something like that. And then just ask them a question. And the key thing is, you want to ask a question which starts with what, how, why. These questions, which mean that the question that you are asking is an open question, something that doesn't just require a yes or no answer. That's what you're looking for. Cool. Now we're going to move on to how to qualify properly. So, key frameworks we will be using. So there's BANT, which I have covered in a previous video, but it means budget, authority, need, and timeline. The minimum requirements that you need to sell to someone on LinkedIn or in any domain of business. If they have the budget to pay for your solution, if they have the authority, the actual ability to make the decision, they have a need, so they actually want your product, and they have the timeline, AKA they need it now, there's a prospect that you can sell to and they're most likely to close. Make sure that you have all of these criteria before actually selling someone, otherwise they won't close. The next one is LVQ, Lube Value Question, which sounds strange, I know. But essentially it's lubing the chat at the beginning. So you're going, oh yeah, man, that totally sucks. Like, oh, I really appreciate you sharing that with me. So you're lubing it, then you're adding value. I actually had a client who also was struggling with XYZ pain. I ended up making them a training resource. Would you like me to send it through to you as well? And then you're asking them a question at the end. That's the example. Now, this is a framework which is very similar. It just depends on which one you prefer. But ACA, so acknowledge, compliment, ask. So you acknowledge what they say. Oh, makes total sense. Appreciate you sharing me with that. And you compliment it. Actually, I had that kind of situation as well. And I think you've handled it really, really well. And then you ask them a question at the end. So this is taken from Alex Mosey. This is the framework that he talks about. But I actually prefer LVQ because that was one that I was exposed to first. Cool. So qualifying sequence. What are the core principles and the best practices? So you want to lead with curiosity, approach conversations with genuine interest, not a preconceived sales agenda. So preconceived meaning like you already knew that you're going to go selling into the conversation. You want to approach it in a sense that you're actually interested. Show that you're interested. Mirror their tone and language. Adapt your communication style to match theirs. You want to make it feel natural. If someone sends you a paragraph, you want to send a paragraph back. If they send you short, sharp sentences, you want to send short, sharp sentences back, because people love it when you mirror their energy if you're in person, or they mirror your language. So, you know, like when you are abroad, and at least for myself, and everyone around you is speaking a different language, and then suddenly you meet someone and they can speak your language. Instantly you have a lot more trust with them because they're speaking the native language that you've known since you grew up and that you understand. And it's a very easy way for someone to build trust with you. If I was abroad and I was in a place where no one spoke English, and then suddenly someone spoke English to me, I would instantly trust that person way more because they speak my native language. Same here. If you mirror their tone, you mirror their language, they're more likely to trust you, and that trust will be built up faster. That's the idea. Always have a single question focus. Never ask more than one question. It's too confusing. If I ask people two questions, they usually respond to one anyway, but also it's too overwhelming. Oh God, there's all these questions I've got to respond to. Ask them one at a time and make sure that question is as targeted and pointed as possible. That's the idea. Emphasize why. Every single time someone sends you a message, make sure that in your mind you're thinking, well, why is this? Always see the why behind someone's motivations. If someone's telling you that they're having they're struggling with booking more meetings, for example, if I was selling a service to help book more meetings, I'm constantly thinking, well, why is that? Oh, how come you're struggling with that? Why do you think that's happening now? Ask them questions to dive deeper into the pain and the need that they have. Don't ask about budget too early. Don't do that. I've seen it happen too many times, where essentially someone gets really excited. I've worked with sellers, I've worked with founders as well, and they get excited. They're like, oh wow, someone's interested. Oh, this is cool. And then because they have this preconceived idea, this idea that they don't want to waste their time, they just ask the budget like quite up front. They're like, hey, do you have between 2K to 5K for my service? Don't do that, because they probably don't trust you enough for you to then suddenly chuck some numbers in front of their face. We're like, whoa, I didn't want to pay that much. Don't ask it too early. You ask budget right at the end, or you use some methodologies around it so that it doesn't actually sound like you're trying to ask for the budget. And I'll go through those questions in the next slide. Build understanding, don't pitch. Genuinely understand someone and why you might be able to help them. Because if you just accept anyone into your service, it's not valuable. Whereas if you say to someone, look, I don't know if I can help you yet. I've got to see if you're a good fit because I want to make sure that I can actually get your results. And then you build an understanding, you ask them questions. It's like when you go to the doctor and you walk in, you're ill, and they start asking you questions, you feel good, you're like, yeah, so I've had this problem. And they're like, oh, really? So does it hurt here? Does it hurt here? You're like, oh yeah, it hurts here and here. They're building an understanding. And so when they give you the diagnosis at the end, you're much more likely to believe it because they actually went through a set process to try and work out, hey, what's wrong with you? And then they gave you their kind of understanding of your situation and what they think is the solution. Same idea here. So what can you actually do in the conversation? There are 4 stages to qualifying. The first one is building casual rapport. And we've touched on this a little bit in the opening side because ultimately you want your open to start the conversation. But you could say something like, I just saw your post about XYZ. I remember I insert a personal story, ask a question about the post or mention past experience, as I mentioned. Or you could send something like this. I have a post just sitting in my drafts that I should post, but I'm worried people may think what people may think. Oh, it's more of a personal one, as I saw that trend that tends to connect with people better. Does it ever happen to you where you write a post but you're scared to put it out? You're showing vulnerability. And like I said earlier, they'll show vulnerability back. They're like, oh yeah, no, I've had that before. I couldn't post something, it was too personal, same thing. So building casual rapport and actually initiating a conversation. Then you want to surface the lead's problem. There are a few ways to do this. These are just some questions or examples that you can use. Again, I've literally put these all in the qualified call booster kit below, and it has all these templates, all these scripts, even better ones than in here that I have spent hours putting together. So please, it's free, opt into it, get it. You won't regret it. So a question that you could ask is, what would you like to achieve in the next 12 months? So you're surfacing the leads problem. What would you like to achieve? Oh, well, I'd really like to double my revenue. Oh, cool. What do you want to do to try and double your revenue? Oh, I think I should invest more in this. And then you're into the conversation. What's been holding you back recently? I honestly just can't understand how to get over X constraint in the business or my business. Again, showing vulnerability to surface the leads problem. And then finally, which is my favorite, hence why it's in bold, is are you more focused on X or Y at the moment? So for example, if I sold a service where I help people book more meetings, I might say something like, are you more focused on email or DMs at the moment? Simple as that. And they can be like, oh, I'm more focused on DMs. Oh, how are DMs going? Then you're into the conversation. So a this or that question it's called. So is it this or is it that? It does 2 things. 1, it's easy for them to respond to. And 2, it establishes your authority as well. I know that sounds counterintuitive, but the reason is, if you're asking them a question like, are you more focused on this or that? Or are you more focused on emails or DMs? They're like, oh, well, this guy knows what I'm doing because I'm more focused on emails at the moment, but I could be doing DMs. They understand that you know what you're talking about. That's the idea. Then you want to probe the pain. And this is the bit that most people skip. So they build casual rapport, they surface the problem, there's a problem, and they immediately skip to the meeting. What they don't do is press into the pain a bit, and you want to put someone through what's called a pain cycle. So you want to just keep reminding them of their pain. Oh, what specifically has been tricky about that? Why do you think that's happening now? How long has that been going on for? Just put them through a pain cycle so that they're constantly just sat there going, oh my God, I had this problem and I need to solve it. Because ultimately, when you present the solution, it's going to be a lot easier for them to go, yeah, take my money. I need this. And then my favorite question that you can ask is, if you've asked them previously, what would you like to achieve in the next 12 months? And they're like, oh, well, I want to double my revenue. You can then say, well, how likely is it that you'll double your revenue in the next 12 months? Or how likely is it that you'll reach X goal by Y timeframe? The cool thing about this, it also sees the urgency behind the problem. Because if they say, well, it's not very likely, be like, well, do you want to make sure that it is? They're like, yeah. You're like, oh, cool, well, I can help you with X, Y, Z. So that's a really nice question that I would recommend using, because it establishes the urgency and it makes sure they know that you can actually help them get there in the set time frame that they have given themselves. Finally, once they've got a need, you've probed it, you put them through a pain cycle, you then want to go through the last bits of qualification. So, like I said earlier, these are little ways to get around the budget, but you can say something like, have you already invested in X service before, or has it not been a priority before? Something like that. Or are you trying to do this yourself or working with someone already? That's for authority. Do they have the authority to make the decision on their own? Because if they don't, you want to have the co-founder on the call as well. You can do this, but again, you have to do this at the end of the conversation. So you say, look, I want to be completely honest with you. I never want anyone to feel uncomfortable on our calls. Our services usually range between X to Z. Does that seem realistic for you right now? Or is that something that seems realistic right now? That's a really nice way of doing it. And then for the urgency stuff, if you didn't ask this question, how likely is it that you'll reach X goal by Y timeframe? You can ask them, is this something that's important for you to solve now or over the next few months? If they say now, get them on a call. They're ready to go. They need your solution. This is the time to get them. Cool. So you've gone through all that. You opened the conversation. You built casual rapport. You probed the pain and you qualified them. Now it's time to propose the call. So proposing the call, there are a few ways to do this. One is with social proof. So you can be like, I helped name, in a role like yours or who's in the same industry as yours, achieve dream result. So what are they trying to accomplish? Would you be open to a 20-minute call to see how I might be able to help you achieve their dream desire? So achieve that dream result. And again, the call can be as long as you want. I usually recommend 20 minutes. You want it to be low friction, something that they can commit to on the spot. The next one is you don't have any social proof. So you could be like, look, we already touched on this a little bit. It seems like I might be able to help you. So would you be open to a call so I can better understand your situation and suggest what I might recommend? That's a really nice way of going about it. And that's one that I would really recommend. Then what you can do, and I should have mentioned this, is if you've established that there's a need and they actually need your solution, there's a pain, you could say, look, I think I might be able to help you, but I just want to double check. Mind if I ask a couple of questions to see if I might be able to help? And then that's when you run through probing the pain and then the extra bits of qualification at the end to finish off that BANT kind of acronym, budget, authority, need, timeline. If you ask them that, then you can say, hey, you can be like, honestly, I know this is something I can help you with. I don't want to bore you with any more questions. It would be a pleasure to meet you as well and see if I can help. Is that okay with you? And then they're like, yeah, sure. And then you book in a call. When you book in the call, don't make this mistake. People do all the hard work. They get them all the way to the booked call, and then they send them a calendar link and they never hear from them again. Don't do that. You want to make it as simple as possible for the prospect. So you want to offer 2 times. You go, would you like 11:30 a.m. tomorrow or 4 p.m. on Thursday work best for you? That's it. This or that. And if they can't do either, they'll be like, oh, I can't do either of those. They'll be like, oh, would this time work instead? Find a time. Because ultimately, you don't really want to send them a calendar link because it's an easy way to exit the conversation, isn't it? It's like, oh, they sent me a calendar link. I'll have a look at the times later when I'm in front of my calendar or whatever it is. Like, you do not want to send a calendar link. It just gives them such an easy out of the conversation. But if you go back and forth, like maybe 3 times and you can't find a time, then you can send them the calendar link. Be like, oh, don't worry, have a look at my calendar link, see if there's a time here. I'll wait here to make sure you do find a time. Put that so they know that you're waiting, so that they book in there and then. A little tip that I will tell you right now is on the calendar link, you want to limit the booking to only 3 to 4 days out. You've just had a conversation with someone, you've surfaced their pain, You've told them why you can help them. They're on this emotional high because they're like, oh my God, I might actually solve this problem. I might actually get my dream result. And then suddenly they book in 2 weeks' time. By the time you get to those 2 weeks, that emotional high is dropped, and either they won't show up because they're like, I don't really need this anymore, or you're going to spend your whole time trying to hype them back up before you can even sell them again. The sooner the book meeting is after the first chat, the better and the higher the likelihood of them actually closing. So limit the booking to 3 to 4 days out. They can't book any more than that. And if they tell you to, they're like, look, I'll shoot you a message in a couple of weeks when I've got more time. When would work for you? And then you book it in yourself. Just a little caveat to that. You want to make sure that you chat to them a bit before the call. So for example, to say, oh, in 2 weeks' time, the week before, start out the conversation with them and then just keep them warm. Otherwise, they won't show up, at least in my experience. Finally, how to follow up. If you've been chatting with someone and they're not responding, not getting back to you, you've got to make sure that you can follow up with them. So this is how you follow up. The best practices and principles. You always want to add value to a follow-up. If you've had a whole conversation on this, suddenly stop replying, you want to add more value to the conversation because you've got to give them a reason to get back to you. So share an insight, share a lead magnet, which I mentioned earlier, share a training, a compelling story, something like that, so that they are incentivized to actually reply. Next, you want to make it personal. Connect your message back to what they mentioned before. Hey, look, I know you mentioned you want to double your revenue in the next 12 months. I actually spend a bit of time, about 20 minutes a day, putting together a training for you so that you can see how I would suggest you double your revenue in the next 12 months. Send that through to them. Next thing is you want to stay human. Maintain a conversational tone. Again, remove all patterns associated with sales. Remove all language that could possibly give a whiff that you are trying to sell to them. Keep it genuine. You just want to help them. One clear ask. Whenever you follow up, you want to have one question. That's it. Same as before. Never more than that. I've seen so many follow-ups where they ask one question and then they ask another question. I'm like, stop. Only use one question. Make sure you do. Build trust, not tension. Be helpful, supportive, never pushy or aggressive. Ultimately, you're there to help them. Prove that to them. That's what you got to do. In terms of cadence and what I would recommend, you can do follow-ups either 2 to 3 days later, so then you send a follow-up, then do a week later, so you send another follow-up, and then 2 weeks later, you do another follow-up. Now, if they don't reply after those 3 different touch points, remove them out of the pipeline and get back to them in a couple months. But that's the cadence that I have found gets the highest return and the likelihood of them actually responding. These are actual templates that you can use for following up. And this is a question I get all the time. How do you follow up? How do you do it? You have a high response rate. How do you follow these people up? This is how. These are the 4 ways that I follow up. Now, there are actually 7 in total, but ultimately, these are the best 4. So one of them is they haven't replied in a while. So then you want to use what's called the AAA framework. So you acknowledge what they said, notice the theme, you associate it, and then you ask them a question. So, hey, I was just on a call with one of my clients who's also in X niche. They were struggling with the pain that you mentioned. I remembered it was something you brought up too. So, and this is where you have option A or option B. It's completely up to you which one you want to do. But you can say, so I walked them through how to fix the problem. Would you like me to send you through the recording? So you send them through the call that you had with that client. That's one option. Or you can say, so after the call, I actually ended up creating a training for them that might be able to help you as well. Would you like me to send it over? And then that's a really nice way for them to go, oh, wow, they actually thought about me in that moment. Cool. Yeah, of course, I'd like to have a look at that. So that's option 1. Option 2 is you haven't identified the pain point yet. Notice there it says struggling with pain mentioned. Now, if you don't know that, you can do this. So you can be like, hey, Name, I've been filming a few resources today, focused on different areas of your niche. What are you currently focused on right now? So I can send you the most relevant one or film a new training that I haven't even got yet. So ask them a question. Hey, what are you struggling with? I want to make sure they give you a training that I can just send through to you so that you can actually get over it. That's the idea. The next one is they go into conversation. So if you're having a live conversation with them and you're going back and forth, it's a good chat, and suddenly they stop. It's the worst one because you're like, oh my God, I might actually book a meeting, and then they just stop replying. It's annoying as hell. But if they do that, the first thing you can do is maybe about 4 or 5 minutes later, you can send name, question mark, because you've been having a live conversation. It's weird that they didn't reply. And then wait 10 to 15 minutes. Then you could say, if they don't reply to that, wait 10 to 15 minutes and then say, I'm not sure what happened. I presume something may have came up. I've got to jump now to another call, so let me know when's a better time to chat. Keep it light. You don't have to pressure them into anything. Just be like, hey, look, something probably came up. That's absolutely fine. I'll jump on a call. Let's catch up at a better time. And in most cases, they come back to you like, hey, I'm really sorry. The doorbell rang, my kids were crying, my dog was barking, whatever. And they'll say, oh, can we catch up tomorrow at X time? And you're like, yeah, cool, sounds good. And then you continue the conversation then. The last one is a pattern interrupt. So something which just seems so bizarre, so weird and so wacky that they're like, what the hell is this guy even sending to me? These work actually the best. And an example, which I'll give you, which has actually worked more than once, is, dude, I had dinner with a business owner last night who mentioned XYZ. Made me think about how important it is to do it. I know that that was something you mentioned too. By the way, did you get a chance to? And then refer back to what they didn't reply to previously. So like, by the way, did you see my last question? And then just respond to it. Or you could, if you've sent them through like a document or whatever, you'd be like, oh, by the way, did you see my document I sent through to you? Or free training, if you're sending this after you've already sent them this one here, number 1, you can use that as a reference. So just something which seems really weird. Like if I had my knock screen and it said, dude, I had dinner with a business owner last night who mentioned XYZ, I'd be like, what the hell? What? That's so weird. That's the idea. So it's got to be something that they've never really received before. That's the idea, and they will respond. Believe me. That is it. That is how to go through a sell-by chat conversation, get someone to the book meeting, and actually close some more deals. That is the idea. And that is like a brief overview of how to do the whole thing, how to take someone through a whole sell-by chat conversation and actually book the meeting at the end. And this is exactly what I train setters and what I train founders on. You now have it in your hands. And like I mentioned below, is all the scripts, me literally doing a video, running through each section individually, opening, qualifying, following up, proposing the call, everything. That is all below in the Qualify Call Booster Kit. But hopefully this has been helpful. This is episode 4 in the mini series of LinkedIn. If you haven't watched the previous videos, go watch them. I want to make sure I give you every element of LinkedIn so you can go out there and you can crush it and make as much money as possible.